Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Welcome back to Just Another Car Show. As you guys know, we do a lot of car reviews out here. This time, we're doing a little bit something different for you to go over the Porsche 911. We had Park. Park, how are you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic. I mean, even better after a trip from LA. I mean, that's pretty exciting, pretty electric.
Before he got to LA, Park Hill and I were talking a lot about trying to get him something a little more vintage Porsche. What were you looking for, Park?
An air cooled would have been the best.
I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with you.
We're not Jay Leno. We don't have millions of dollars sitting in the budget these days.
So obviously we're not Jay Leno. We can't just call Singer up and see what they got laying around. It'd be great one day. But we did find the brand new 2022 Porsche 911, and I went and picked the dude up from the airport in it.
What's up, man?
What do you think, bro?
I thought you bought a real Porsche.
This is a real Porsche.
Dude, this is a computer with a Porsche badge on it. I guarantee there's a huge touchscreen. I can already see the cup holder. It's a PDK with a shift knob like this. This is not a 911. They completely bastardized the whole thing.
Bro, you just gotta drive it. Come on, let's go.
All right, let's
go. All right, you just drove it. Are you still gonna talk shit about it?
Oh, you bet. Look at this cup holder.
Dude, the cup holders are nice, and I like the fact that I have one over here for myself. And you gotta give him credit for this cluster. This is classic Porsche with the 5 dials.
They're screens.
They're still dials.
They're
And-
iPhones right there.
But I love that fact because I can change these screens to whatever I want to see. If I'm on the track, if I'm daily driving, I got options.
You're supposed to get away from technology and be in the essence of driving. I will give them is the tack. It's retro and it's still analog. Looks like something out of a 356.
Yeah, I honestly love the way the tack looks, especially when you're running through the gears.
Yeah.
I will say though, I think we can both agree that the drive mode selection knob on the steering wheel is on point.
It makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense.
And it shows off their racing heritage.
Right, and it makes so much sense that when we first got in the car, you and I were both looking for it, and
Yep.
you looked at me and you said,
Yep.
oh, of course.
Right there.
It's on the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of
and
the
you just-
only manufacturers to do something like this. It looks like it's out of a video game or right out of a
does.
race car.
It does.
Really cool, very intuitive.
Another really good racing feature that Porsche added in was these wonderful paddle shifters, dude. I hate most paddle shifters. Most paddle shifters feel clunky, heavy, plasticky. These feel heavy, like metallic-y, like a hard hammer coming in to switch through those gears when you're
Banging through the gears.
when you're running through that 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission, brother. You can't hate on that. Come on, man. All right, so the other thing is this really nice, and I think it's classic to Porsche. You're the Porsche guy. You tell me, is this nice chronograph. I can keep track of my lap times when I'm running through it.
So it is, and it's a reminder of what this car is built for, not what it's become. So Porsche built for track days,
Right.
built for racing. Guys used to actually have to sew tag hewer into the dash to
Okay.
time, right? They made stopwatches
Right,
for
right,
lap
right.
times.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think it's phenomenal. It used to be an option. It's now built-in standard because a lot of times people forget that they're in a Porsche because of all this luxury in here. So they need to be reminded that they're in a racing car.
But we can agree that it is nice, a nice feature and a nice touch to add to the interior.
Phenomenal touch. Well done, Porsche.
Okay, we can agree on that. But moving down, how do you feel about this huge 11-inch display?
It's probably my least favorite part of the car. I can appreciate these for their functionality.
Right.
And it's the perfect example of what this car has become.
Okay.
It's not a racing car anymore. Back in the old days, the dash came here. There was a radio, maybe a cassette player.
Okay.
And that was all the entertainment that you got. It was all the entertainment you needed.
Right.
Because this was the entertainment. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Say, Dave, you're a ginormous asshole. This is a great system. It's designed so that you're forced to drive. You can't play with this when you're driving, so you can't play with it when you're driving.
Right.
Porsche retroactively forces you to pay attention and enjoy the experience before you leave your house. Set everything up and go.
Okay.
I'll give them that.
Okay.
I like it.
Moving down from the display though, there are these really nice switches that you can set. There's like a first option, second option switch. So like you said, you might not be able to play while you're driving, but they did give you the use of having those 2 quick switches right next to some traction control switches and a little bit of suspension dampening switches.
But I'll tell you, from an aesthetics perspective, they tied it up really well.
They did, and I really like this little 911 notch they put right at the end of the transmission points, the Prindle, if you will. But this is better than a lot of the random new transmission adjustments we're seeing these days with the knob from Dodge, the buttons from GMC. As weird as this little switch thing is, I do like its tactility.
I will say from a design perspective, it does look good. From a driving perspective though, as much as an automatic is nothing but an automatic, there's still something about putting your foot on the brake, grabbing it, and putting it in drive.
I get that.
This is literally just the flick of 2 fingers.
I get that.
And then you forget about it. You might as well get an electric car at that point.
Oh my God. Okay, relax. I get it. I do like the fact that we have heated and cooled seats.
Doesn't take away from the driving experience. I'll give it to you.
Okay. And then moving down here, I really like this little storage center that they gave us. They gave us the phone outline right here, so that while you're whipping it around a corner, because you know, even though you're hating on it, you can still whip it around a corner. I got a nice place, safe place to keep my phone and maybe my wallet. It's tiny back there. Yeah. And then,
better than it used to be.
As Jeremy Clarkson said, I have tiny back seats, but that doesn't matter because I'm driving a 911. I already have a tiny one. So
that's true.
Let's get out of these racing seats.
Let's do it.
And let's get outside the car, check it out on the outside.
Let's go.
All right.
So, my initial thoughts with my experience in Porsche, which is a 944 from 1986 and a Boxster from, I think, 2005, the phone is not even a part of the driving experience, which is what a Porsche is, right? The Porsche is a step out of reality for driving performance. However, what I realized was that the simplicity of the screens right in front of me and the center infotainment system, they really never took away from the driving experience. So Sam and I took a drive down one of the roads in LA. I was never once captured by the 2 screens in the cluster and the infotainment system. That never once crossed my mind. So my initial thought was all this new digitalization is going to take away from the driving experience. It never did.
Yeah, I think that driving experience is so much about the car and what the car can do for you, that all those screens in the car literally just start to kind of fade away, and the road gets bigger and your pulse gets higher, and you're having a great time driving a Porsche 911. I think not only did the interior of the car kind of take our breath away, but once you step out of the car and look at what you're driving, that also took my breath away. And I think I'll let you lead with that one. Ben.
So it's funny because this model, it's got a very weird taper to the front hood, and I didn't like it. And then in the nights that I was there, I took a little time to research some of the old 911s, and it's exactly what an old 911 was. I grew up with the 993, the 996, the 997, and they all had sort of a curved off grille. But when you look back at some of the OG 911s, they have a squared off grille. Porsche did a great job with it. When you see it in person, it makes a big difference. I don't know, Ben, if I have ever felt cooler than driving around LA in a brand new 911. I was driving down one of the freeways in LA, and I kept looking out the side window to see if I would see one of the Jenners. And I was ready. I was full on ready to be like, hey, I am a rich guy in LA and I have a 911. And that's the difference, man. That is the difference. You drive around LA in any other car, who gives a shit? I had to make sure I knew, even though the car looked good, it could still perform. There were a couple different roads that legally I made sure were good to go down. I wanted to get some good time in on those roads, and legally 45 and under, I'll tell you, it did what it needed to do, man.
I agree, dude. When my experience driving the car, it was a phenomenal drive. It was one of the best cars we've driven on Jax. And how could it not be with stats like 379 brake horsepower, 331 foot-pound of torque? This all coming from an engine that consistently gets lower and farther back in the car. And this turbo consistently, without fail, is spooled and ready to rock and roll at 2,300 RPM. What more could you ask for?
And see, that's what's so crazy about this. This is a base Carrera. When I was a kid, I always thought that how could you buy a Porsche that was just a Carrera? You needed to buy a Carrera S, or you had to buy a turbo. This is just a base Carrera. You look back to the old 930 turbos. The old 930 turbos were deemed the Widowmaker. So you'd be going around to turn, you'd be like, oh, happy day, you know, we're on a drive after Sunday, and I'll shift from second to third, and then bam! Turbo would kick in, wham! And you'd be dead.
So you're describing a death trap, and I'm describing a driver's car. I think because honestly, in my opinion, it is a driver's car, because I know. Okay, I know. There's the 8-speed PDK. There's the there are things you can point at, but in today's day and age, in the cars that we receive as consumers today, this is the most driver's car you could ever own. They're not going to sell you a car that's going to kill you anymore. Yes, I respect the old heritage, and I think this car also really respects the old heritage. It respects what its grandfather did, but this one is faster. This one handles better. This one has adjustable suspension. This one has a dual clutch transmission. Like, you're getting the most evolved Pokemon at this point, you know? It respects the old stuff. It doesn't do it dirty, but it does continue that evolution.
So, with my final thoughts, I thought that this new 911 was, the soft attempt at a sports car. And when you get behind the wheel, it's just not. It's got so much power. The 944 would be left in the 911's dust. Boxster would hang in the corners, but get left in the straights. It's a new 911, man. And the 911 is always at the top of anybody's best car list. And I came into this thinking that, it's an iPad with wheels, and Porsche sold out. Ben, I don't know if you have any antithesis to this other than I was wrong, and I'm sorry.
Because I love you, and I've known you for a long time. I wish I could just straight up tell you you're wrong. But you said something a few seconds ago. You said, if you're a real car enthusiast and this car isn't in your top cars list, I don't know what you're smoking, because ideally this is that iconic, legendary Widowmaker car that we saw in the past, and this is just the 2022 version of it. Porsche has to deal with all the government regulations. They have to deal with all the, we're consumers and we expect X, Y, and Z out of our cars now. If Porsche could sell you it without Apple CarPlay and without all these screens, I'm sure they would. But they can't in this day and age. And so I think we here at Jax not only see that for the price point of $106,000, is this car a steal? It's actually, I don't think we can think of many other cars we would get. I'm a freaking JDM guy, and I would buy this over a GTR. So all in all, here at Jax, we approve of the baby Widowmaker.